Hakeem Jeffries never saw this coming. Check it out.
But actually, the Democrats in recent polls are actually faring worse than the Republicans.
After recent polls showed Democrats hitting record disapproval, Hakeem went on the attack, lashing out at Republicans, especially James Comer, who wouldn't let it slide and delivered a takedown for the ages.
Everyone that watches his interviews and sees how he tries to imitate Obama, they wonder why he's got the nickname Dollar Store Obama.
And today, we're covering it all. So, if you believe truth isn't partisan, hit the subscribe button and let's jump right into it. By the way, this video is sponsored by Aura. More on that later.
But Leader Jeffries, on the question of rising prices and the stewardship of the economy, clearly the public is saying they're not satisfied with Donald Trump. They don't approve of him. But actually, the Democrats in recent polls are actually faring worse than the Republicans. Take a look at a Quinnipiac poll out just this week. Shows that Democrats have their lowest approval rating in the poll's 15-year history. Only 18% give Democrats a high approval rating in the handling of the economy. Only 18%, 73% disapproval. What are you doing wrong?
Well, clearly that's an outlier poll. Listen, the most significant indicator of public sentiment is, are you winning elections or are you losing elections? And on that front, Democrats have been winning elections since January. These results aren't ambiguous. They're not unclear. They are unequivocal that the American people are rejecting Republican extremism and embracing our affordability agenda.
Yeah, you heard that right. Democrats have hit one of their worst lows in years now. And if you look at the numbers, even among their constituents, only 42% approve of the way members of their own party in Congress are handling their job. In comparison, 35% of overall voters approve of the way Republicans are handling their job. And that's to be expected, especially if you look at the issues Democrats in Congress have focused on. For starters, they fought tooth and nail against DOGE, suddenly pushed for the release of the Epstein files, even though a handful of them cared about it before Trump returned to office. Then forced a government shutdown that became the longest in U.S. history. So it's safe to say that the opposition party, they've done a pretty terrible job. And they didn't stop there. So, as more recently, Jeffries went after James Comer for exercising his oversight power. So let's hear what he had to say.
Because Republican leaders want no part of actually keeping health care affordable for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and hardworking American taxpayers. We'll cross the next bridge when we get to it in terms of future discharge petitions. But what's in front of us right now is the need to finish the job and extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is accusing Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and AG Keith Ellison of not cooperating with the committee's investigation into some of the widespread fraud happening there with the social services in the state. Do you think they should cooperate with the committee's investigation, and do you have concerns about what's happening in the state?
James Comer is a joke, an embarrassment, an unserious individual, and a malignant clown.
That's Jeffries staying true to his brand. Now, keep in mind, just a couple of months ago, he called Carolyn Levitt sick and out of control, adding, quote, "I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, or stone-cold liar, or all of the above." But going after Comer for doing his job as chair of the House Oversight Committee is truly bizarre. And this isn't over something small. We're talking about billions of dollars in potential fraud, with new details surfacing almost every week. The situation has become serious enough that the federal government reportedly paused funding to some of Minnesota's welfare programs just to sort out what exactly is happening. Obviously, James Comer wouldn't let such comments slide. But before we play his brutal response, a quick message from our sponsor. You see, now, cybercrime and identity theft are not just increasing, they're becoming $1 billion industry. And the ones making money off it are data brokers. See, these companies scoop up everything about you. I'm talking about your name, your home address, your email, even your entire online footprint, and then they sell it off to whoever's willing to pay. That's the part most people never see, and where Aura comes in. You see, Aura doesn't just warn you after the damage is done. It actively goes after the data brokers selling your information and forces them to delete it. And where other companies might offer bits and pieces of protection, nobody goes as far as Aura. You get alerts if your info hits the dark web, real-time bank and credit monitoring, fraud notifications, a secure VPN, and, get this, actual US-based human support available 24/7. Yeah, you heard that right. And here's something else I like, because not a lot of companies do this. Aura includes a $5 million in identity theft insurance, backed by a strong team of US fraud experts ready to help around the clock. I use Aura myself, not just because of the topics I cover in today's political climate, but because staying ahead really matters. So why not protect yourself too? You can head over to aura.com/frontline, which you'll find in the description, and benefit from a 14-day free trial. In those 2 weeks, Aura will help you get back control of your data. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either.
Chairman Comer, I just want to get your response. Can you provide us with any updates on the investigation as well?
That's the third time he's called me a clown. Look, everyone that watches his interviews and sees how he tries to imitate Obama, they wonder why he's got the nickname Dollar Store Obama. Look, he's a low IQ individual who has to resort to name calling. That's what he criticizes Donald Trump over. I don't care what he calls me. He can come to Kentucky and campaign against me. I'll pay for his gas bill. But at the end of the day, to defend Tim Walz is going to be a huge mistake for the Democrats, because everyone in Minnesota knows that this fraud has been taking place for a long time. All I'm doing is my job getting the backs of the taxpayers. If Hakeem Jeffries doesn't like it, he can go fly a kite, because at the end of the day, the American people expect their tax dollars to be spent wisely. They expect oversight, and the Democrats only provide oversight when it pertains to Donald Trump. I'm providing oversight for the American taxpayers, whether it's Democrat or Republican. It just so happens that Tim Walz is a beloved Democrat from the liberal Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries, and he's going to have to answer questions.
Yeah, he's got a point. Accountability seems to be Hakeem's kryptonite. Just last week, a bipartisan discharge petition was introduced by Ana Paulina Luna to force a vote on banning congressional trading. It had, quote, 74 signatures, including 15 Republicans, which is more than enough for a House majority, and for the bill to pass. But Jeffries rolled out his own version, with one outlet speculating the move was done because he, quote, rather keep the concept of a trading ban alive for campaigning. This is something similar to what Pelosi pulled in 2022. Slow walk the process, and then the bill died quietly. So, when Democrats wonder why their numbers keep sliding, this is part of the answer. Voters notice performative politics, which is the exact point Mike Penn, who was a former advisor to Clinton, expanded on, and he made some pretty solid arguments.
73% of Americans disapproving of the job of House Democrats in Congress, or congressional Democrats, excuse me. Mark, obviously the approval number isn't that much higher for Republicans, but an 18% approval rating, that is pretty low.
Well, they disapprove really of the president, the Republicans, and the Democrats. They disapprove of the Democrats more, but when you're in and the public's in a bad mood, you really have to do some work here, in these midterms. And the Republicans, the Democrats, you're right, have no leader. They try to pick up healthcare as an issue. They've had some success with that. I think the president is working pretty hard to counter, that is an issue. But, it's not like Pelosi says, that this is not over by any means. I think this is a race that's just beginning, starting right after the new year.
Yep. And November is certainly going to be here before we know it.
Okay, the midterms are still very much in play, especially with a record number of lawmakers announcing retirements or choosing not to run again. But voters usually aren't swayed by short-term headlines. They focus on long-term issues that directly affect their lives, like the economy, the border, public safety, and overall stability. That's where elections are usually decided. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, keep thinking.